I'll be honest with all of you. I've lived in fear most of my life. And for weeks, I've actually been afraid to get on this stage. So I'm not speaking to you as an expert on fear, just someone who has lived with it for a very long time. But fear isn't just a problem for you and I. Some of the most amazing people we admire suffer from the paralyzing effects of fear every day. Richard Branson, in 1980, before he was going to launch Virgin, told his mentor that he was afraid of public speaking. Jennifer Aniston has shared multiple times that she has a fear of flying. And Jennifer Lawrence, that brave mockingjay, she has a fear of social interaction. But that really isn't a surprise. The problem with fear is that it sabotages our potential, and it causes us to shrink back. It prevents us from doing what we know is right because we're afraid of rejection. We're afraid that we're going to offend someone. What if we tell someone the truth and they hate us? We're afraid to fail. And fear is that intangible thing that has a very real effect in our everyday lives. Ever wonder how many opportunities you've missed out on because you've knowingly or unknowingly let fear in? For some of us, it's to get our MBA or to get our PhD. For others, it's applying to that dream job, but after you read the qualifications, you thought to yourself, I'm just not good enough. Or maybe it's that gnawing feeling to travel the world, to move to another city and live there. Or it's to launch that great business idea you had. The U.S. National Institute of Mental Health released some statistics recently about fears and phobias. They said that 60% of the things we fear will never happen. 30% of the things we fear are things of the past that we can't even change. 90% of the things we fear are considered insignificant. And 88% of the things we fear are associated with health issues we'll never even have. The reality is fear is powerful, but it's not all bad. So how does our brain process fear? Let's say I'm swimming in a pool, and from afar I see this long black squiggly thing, and it looks like a branch. But as I get closer, I realize it's a live black snake. My heart races, my breath shortens, and my muscles tighten. That is healthy fear. Fear was actually designed to protect us. It is both emotional and biochemical. It's a primitive human emotion we're born with, and it signals when we're in danger or when there's a threat, and it triggers appropriate adaptive responses. In the 1920s, Dr. Walter Cannon, a psychologist and a professor from Harvard Medical School, coined this reaction the fight or flight response. And it's the theory that humans and animals alike react to threat through a general discharge of the sympathetic nervous system. When you experience fear, a reaction occurs in that part of your brain called the amygdala. And it triggers a neural response in the hypothalamus that controls your nervous system. It activates the pituitary gland and secretes a hormone called ACTH. Simultaneously, your adrenal gland is activated and releases a hormone called cortisol. Those two hormones increase your blood sugar, your blood pressure, and suppresses your immune system. Some of the physiological changes that occur during the fight or flight response are increased blood flow to your muscles as blood is diverted from other parts of your body. Your blood sugar, your heart races, and energy increases. The blood clotting function also increases to prevent excessive bleeding, and your muscles tend to give you extra speed and strength. All of these physical responses help you to stay alive in dangerous situations, and it prepares your body to either fight for your life or to run. So as you can see, fear isn't bad. It helps us stay alive. But there does reach a point where fear becomes debilitating. And it's when we experience fear, when we do nothing. We don't fight, we don't run. We simply do nothing. And unhealthy fear controls and consumes us. Instead of protecting our lives, it undermines not only ourselves, but those around us. We can be so fearful of what other people think about us that we're afraid of social interaction. We can be afraid that we won't be comfortable in life, so we spend all our energy acquiring possessions we don't even need. We can be so fearful that we won't be loved, and we try to control people and make them make us feel loved. We can be afraid of emotional pain and numb ourselves with alcohol, with drugs, so we feel nothing at all. We can be so afraid of differences that they become prejudice and even hatred, so we can make ourselves feel superior than other people. One of my personal struggles is the fear of failure. Failure presented such a significant psychological threat that my motivation to avoid failure far exceeded my motivation to succeed. Unconsciously, that sabotaged my chances at success. So here's how that played out. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. I wanted to fall in the footsteps of my dad. And so in high school, I applied to the US Air Force Academy. During those teenage years, I was so insecure. I had no self-confidence. I was shy, soft-spoken, and I valued my self-worth at 0. It really affected how I approached life. I believed a lie that I was stupid, that I wasn't good enough. And so, consumed with fear, I submitted a subpar application. And I justified it by saying, oh, if you don't get in, it's quite all right. You didn't try that hard anyway. So guess what? I didn't get in. What makes you think if you don't give an opportunity your best efforts that you'll get 100% results? I was afraid of failure, and it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Looking back in hindsight, I can probably give you 100 examples of how that played itself over and over again. So how did I break the cycle? I got tired of the same reality, and I started doing things afraid. And it was the first step to unraveling fear's grip over my life. When I was 27, many, many moons ago, I was approached to enter a beauty contest, a beauty pageant, in California called Miss Asian America. I never considered myself beauty queen material. I was more of a disruptor and a rebel by nature. But as the director started relentlessly recruiting me, I had to face my fears. I had to ask myself, why do I want to tell her no? Well, imagine entering a competition where people judge you based on your looks and your presentation for just that day. I told myself, man, if I lose, I'm going to have a low self-esteem forever. And if I win, I'm going to have like this big ego. The reality was I was afraid to fail. I was afraid to put myself in public, on stage, and have other people tell me I'm not good enough. Somehow, I developed a habit of tying the results of a situation to my identity and self-worth. Entering the pageant for me wasn't just about beauty. Destiny had brought another opportunity for me to face my fear of failure. And this time, I did it afraid. I'll never forget the phone conversation I had with Mom. When I asked her if I should, she was like, well, Amy, if you're going to do it, you have to do it all the way, and don't embarrass me. Yeah, Mom, I know you're Lao. You don't want to be embarrassed, right? So I gave it my all. I gave it 110%. I trained, and I practiced, and I worked out like a maniac, and the results had a really good return. Contrary to its definition, living a fearless life doesn't mean living completely without fear. For me, living a fearless life meant living a life that is empowered to be the best version of you. So how do we get there? The journey to fearlessness. Well, you start by confronting. Oh, that's a bit delayed, but it's okay, you don't need to see that. You start by confronting. Face your fears. It's okay to admit and say, I am afraid of fill in the blank. Because the first start to resolving any issue is confrontation. Ask yourself, where does this fear come from? Do I have identity issues? Do I have self-worth issues? Was it something that happened to me in the past that triggered all of this? Get to the root of your fear. Calculate. Calculate all the possible outcomes if you gave this opportunity 100%. What is the worst case scenario? What is the best case scenario? And can you live with the worst case? If you can, find peace. Believe. You have to believe that you are powerful beyond measure. You have to believe in yourself, because if you don't, no one will, especially when it gets tough. And lastly, fail, and fail often, and never give up. Because each time you fail, you're going to learn something. And if you keep trying, those lessons produce results. And you'll learn that it's a process, it's a journey. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Studies show that if you expose yourself constantly to fears, that your tolerance for them actually grows. Fearlessness is not about winning. It's about living a life that is courageous, that is bold, and unafraid of the outcomes. It is freedom from fear. Ariana of the Huffington Post, in her book, What It Means to Be Fearless, wrote, I'll paraphrase, that fearlessness is not about living without fear, but it's not allowing fear to get in the way of your dreams. Fearlessness is getting up one more time than you fall. We can't be free from something we don't recognize. But once we recognize, we have to confront it. It takes a very brave soul to stop pretending and to be honest with ourselves. The next time you have an idea, that deep longing resurfaces before fear can come knocking on your door to rob you of your potential, remember that fearlessness is a choice. It's an every day, every second of the day choice. And I hope you don't wait, because inside each of you are dreams waiting to be birthed. And though fear is powerful, fearlessness enables us to do unbelievable things. Thank you.